Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, we're going to talk all about going to see the legendary Ringo Starr this week in New York City. In an interesting twist, we'll also talk about how this concert relates to me going to see Vinnie Vincent at Creatures Fest only a week and a half ago. This episode's a lot of fun, lots of things to cover. I think you guys are going to really enjoy it, so let's jump in and let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. Today I'm excited to have back with me two guests. One who's sitting here eating pretzels and a little bit rude, and the other one who's a top quality individual. So the rude one, of course, is Mr. Vincent LaRussa. How you doing, Mr. Pretzel Man?
Sorry, I'm a little hungry.
I could see that.
I got the munchies. I think I'm having withdrawals from Ringo.
Is that what it is? And of course, welcome back to the show. I think it's the third time. Mario, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
He's known as Super Mario, Super M.
Super M. Super M for all the viewers and listeners out there. So last night, the three of us went to see the legendary Ringo Starr. Now, I know for the two of you, it was not your first rodeo seeing Ringo. But for me, it was. Look at you. You're showing off the shirt over there, Mr. Vincent. I think, Mary, you got the same shirt, right?
Oh, yeah. There was.
There you go.
We bought off the rack.
Truth be told, Mr. Super M, this is courtesy of him. The shirt he purchases for me. Very kind and very generous. Thank you, Super M.
Very welcome.
And, before we even talk about the show, before we went to the show, which was at the Beacon Theater in New York, really nice place. I've been there a few times now. But we went for a little bit of nourishment beforehand. And, again, I'm saying you got Mr. Vincent LaRussa, rude bastard eating pretzels, and Mario, the quality individual. I want to say thank you again. Mario paid for our dinner last night, which was completely unnecessary. But I just want to acknowledge that here on the record in front of everybody else. That was very kind of you, Mario. So thank you.
My pleasure. It was very nice getting together with you guys.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But like I was saying before, it was the first time for me seeing Ringo, but both of you guys have seen Ringo in the past. So Mario, you're the big Beatles fan. We can see behind you, you've got just some of your Beatles stuff. How many times have you seen Ringo in the past?
This last night was my second.
That's it? Oh, wow. Okay. I thought it was more than that.
Only my second.
Let me recalibrate. That I'm a little dazed at that one. I thought it was like much more than that. I don't know how that we never discussed that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't. He started in '89, and I didn't go running for the first tour, but eventually I went to see him at Jones Beach, and it was a lot of fun. Peter Frampton was with him that night with Jack Bruce. So you got a lot of Peter Frampton Comes Alive and all those wonderful Cream songs, and it's fun. I mean, his shows are just fun. I mean, the songs. His all-stars play their big hits. He plays his big hits. He delves into the Beatle catalog where he was the lead vocalist, and it's just Ringo being Ringo. A fun concert and a fun guy.
It's funny that you say that, Mario, because last night, probably about halfway, 2/3 of the way through the show, Vin turns to me. He was sitting in the middle. I was on one side, you were on the other, right? And he's like, "This is Mary. This is Ringo Starr and the Merryments," I think is what he said. So and that really sums up. Ringo is so much energy and so much fun.
It's a very good description. Merry, yeah.
Merry.
Yeah, it really,
Merriment. Merriment. I like the word merriment.
Merriments. Yeah, we're going to officially rename his band to Ringo Starr and the Merriments.
and the Merrymen.
Which I'm sure nobody wants to hear, but you and I, maybe. Vin.
Exactly.
So, Vin, this was your second time also seeing Ringo, right?
Yes, I saw him in 2015. Not slightly different lineup. The consistent between that time I saw him in 2015 is he both had Greg Bissonette and Steve Lukather. Greg Bissonette on the drums, who's known really, I think, more for being in David Lee Roth band when David Lee Roth went solo, although he's worked with other artists. And Steve Lukather, of course, who's played on a zillion records and is one of the, I think, founding members of Toto, and just incredible guitar player.
Yep. So Mario, just for anybody watching this who maybe is not staying up on top with Ringo Starr and his current lineup, why don't you just share with everybody who was in the All-Star band last night for us?
Well, sadly, we'll start with the one person who couldn't be there, and that was Edgar Winter. He sadly had a positive COVID test, but it must have been a Showtime decision because his keyboards were there and he just wasn't. So maybe it's something that happened rather quickly.
I think you're right. I'll pause you there for a moment because even Vin and I, after the show, he looked up the set list from the night before, and Edgar Winter was there at the show the night before. So it obviously had happened in the last 24 hours. And I agree with you. The keyboards were all set up. It seems like it was like a game time decision that he couldn't play last night. Right.
And if you ever saw, Edgar Winter, he puts on a remarkable show. He's a multi-instrumentalist, and of course Frankenstein is his big song. So I was a little disappointed with that, but currently the guy Hamish was playing in Paul's band in the 90s, and he's from the Average White Band. And he played his 3 songs, and they were fantastic. And then I don't know the last name, but Colin from
Colin
Men at
Hay.
Work. Yeah, from Men at Work. I think he really was next to Ringo. He was probably the second best entertainer of the night. He was really engaging with the crowd. And
Vincent wants to say something. Huh?
We love those 3 songs.
Rorschach.
Yes, Vincent.
Well, I just want to pause there. Sorry. Well, not that. I do agree with that. But if you remember during our glorious dinner, you asked me if there's, somebody who would like to, and I didn't, and I said the whole night, even though I discovered on the back of the shirt it had who's in the band. Like when I got home,
really?
I took it off, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't notice it. But I said I didn't want to know who was going to be in the band. I wanted it to be a surprise. But you had asked me if there were 2 guys, or not 2 guys. You said, who would you like to be in his All-Star band? And I said, well, I know Peter Frampton's already been in there. And I was thinking, I said, no, Colin Hay. And so then when I saw him come out, I'm looking, I'm like, is that who? And I went to, and I think it
took you almost a song. I'm sitting there waiting for you to turn to me and say, hey, it is Colin Hay. And you were silent. I'm like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to wait until you notice.
Yeah. Well, I think because he had the same beard like you. So I wasn't used to seeing him like that.
That could be, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
So that was joyous. That
was.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So go ahead, Mario. You could finish up who was in the band.
And 3 really good songs. I mean, and I think Vinnie already mentioned Toto.
Yep. Steve. Yep.
Steve Lukather.
Yep.
Lukather. And the guy, normally the saxophone player is the guy from the Billy Joel band, but it wasn't last night. I wasn't too familiar with him, but his vocals were tremendous.
Yeah, I was hoping maybe one of you guys knew who that was, because in some ways, to me, he was almost the star of the show. Like I was thinking about last night, you said before how, go ahead, Ed, Vin.
His name is Warren Ham.
Warren Ham. Yeah, they did say that last night.
Yeah. And if you want to know anything about him.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah, I am.
I've got his Wikipedia.
There you go.
He's a vocalist, saxophonist, and flautist.
Yeah, and he did play flute.
Yes, from Fort Worth, Texas. He's best known for playing in Kansas in '82, Toto from '86 to '88, and since 2017. Oh, and since 2017, I guess that's what Toto. And Ringo All-Starr since 2015.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, okay. So it's been a while.
Last night you were talking just now, Mario, about how one of the guys couldn't show up last night because of COVID. And I was thinking, well, if any one of them besides the drummer had COVID last night, they probably could have gone on, except for this guy who played flute and horn. And I felt he was so damn talented and flew under the radar because he wasn't a household name, like the others, but I thought he was really good, in my opinion.
No, he was excellent.
Yeah.
And he was also doing the vocals for the Toto songs that
some of the higher pitched vocals. Yeah, I noticed that too.
Like, wow, this guy is really good. Really good.
Agreed. Yeah. And then, Vince said before the drummer was Greg Bissonette, from a lot of people know him from David Lee Roth's band. And I have to say, I was completely impressed. I always knew he was a good drummer, but the way he kind of weaved in and out of different styles. Now, Vin, you're a drummer, right? So you could probably talk to it much more elegantly than I could. But there was even one song, like, you turned to me and you said, what he's doing there on the hi-hat is really hard to do. And, whether it was like a more of a rock song or something like from the Average White Band that was a little bit more like funky and whatever, it's just like I felt he kind of weaved in and out of different styles very, very well. So well that Mario decided, I don't even need to be here anymore to listen to this.
Talking about weave in, weave out, weave in, weave out.
That's right. Well, I'm sure Mario's going to join us again, but
But now we could talk about him. Now
that's right. We could definitely talk about
Mario.
Yeah, no, absolutely we do. But, maybe while we're waiting for Mario, maybe you could just talk a little bit about some of Greg Bissonette's drumming.
So, yeah, I remember pointing at it and I said, do you realize how hard that is to do?
What song was it? Do you remember?
I mean, it was a couple of them. I think it might have been Rosanna was one. He's playing 16 notes with one hand, basically, and fast 16 notes. And even some of like the old, like I Want to Be Your Man by the Beatles, again, what I was going to say to you last night is, like, you see what Bissonette's doing. Like Ringo used to do that in the 60s. And, I think that's the thing that I loved about watching the show. And I said to you, it's like watching this and seeing Ringo, it's like Ringo's in a cover band all of a sudden. Like when you hear him doing, like, he's playing like Who Can It Be Now and Down Under. And you just see, like, the way Ringo is. I mean, how could you not love Ringo Starr? From the moment he comes out there, he does his, he comes out and he does his, like, his little, when he does that, and he's got all this energy, and then he's going behind the drums, and I'm watching the whole time, Bissonette's hands, Ringo's hands, and like perfectly in time. And I could have said, well, yeah, obviously Bissonette's drums were louder in the mix, but clearly there was sometimes where I hear Ringo hit a cymbal or crash or fill, and I heard it in the PA. So it was not, they weren't like, shut up his drums. He was hitting the drums. He had a fluidity, and since we talk a lot about Kiss and stuff like that, and this is not a knock on Peter or anything, but recently I've seen Peter play, and I know Peter had surgery, but Ringo Starr is, if Peter's 76, Ringo's going to be 82. So let's say he's a good 5 years plus.
Yeah.
And I got to say, from a physicality, like him moving around, like you just see what great shape this guy is in. Like he could have clearly maybe not played as well as Greg on all those songs,
right? But
he didn't seem to be yet. Yeah, there was a couple of songs. I remember there was one song where he just stopped playing, or no, he went off the stage.
He went off the stage for a song.
And I think it was one of the songs. It was like they were doing an Isley Brothers cover, and it was like a really funky, like offbeat thing. And I said, now I understand why he's not there, because this was that was like the most technical drumming song that, I had seen throughout the whole night. So it kind of made more sense and give him a break. But pretty much, other than that song, I want to say he was on stage either singing or playing the drums when they were doing Toto songs, Men at Work songs, the Average White Band songs, which to me, that's a huge thrill, because I'm like, this is a guy who was the Beatles' fucking drummer.
Right.
And even still, he's not like, I'm going up there, because we know we've seen a lot of guys with huge egos, but Ringo is nothing about ego whatsoever. He's like, you know what? I'm going to play drums on every song, No. It's just a great thing to see.
I agree. And, if Super M doesn't come back in a moment, then we'll pause, because I want him to be part of this conversation. But one of the things that, to me, I thought about during the show is, I wonder if Greg Bissonette feels any pressure doing some of those Beatles songs. And like you said, kind of playing Ringo's drum parts with Ringo right there on stage. And a lot of times Ringo's up front singing and not playing drums for those songs, which surprised me a little bit. But I wonder if Greg's feeling any pressure, if it's just, hey, he's a pro and he's playing those songs, and you don't even think about the fact that you're playing the songs and you're playing the drums while the drummer is actually on stage singing the songs with you.
Well, I think, first of all, I met Greg, and I was in a couple of circles when I went to some of the drum shows, and I was very fortunate with my drum teacher to be able to kind of talk to these guys. And he's got a very larger than life kind of personality. He's really, really an excitable guy. So I got to feel like the first time, my God, I'm playing drums with Beatles and Ringo's band. But now I think it's probably like, I mean, I'm sure he stops and pinches himself and said, "Wow, this is incredible." But you got to remember, he's a seasoned drummer. He's also session drummer. This is stuff he's played so many times, and it's great to see that he could just go and do the different styles and and just be able to get through everything, because you are kind of covering different bands, different. It's kind of all in the rock, R&B, pop genre, but it looks like Mario's coming back. I'm just looking at his text here.
Very good.
But
well, that's good, because I wanted to get all the drumming insights from you anyway. So he dropped off at the perfect time. I think he knew, hey, you guys are going to talk about drums.
He's like, I don't want to hear a snack.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about drumming. Ringo's the man. I don't need to hear about this. I'm going to go get a snack. I'll be back in 5 minutes with you guys.
But I was like, there was a moment there. I was like, what if Ringo was the drummer in Kiss? I'm just thinking, like,
oh God,
what would that be like? Like if, like you said, Ringo, hey, play Love Gun. Like he's just like, I mean, he's just got such a great feel. You could see it. Like I don't have to hear a note, but as a musician and watching so many drummers, whether I play with them right next to me or just concerts or whatever, you just see he's got like such a swagger. Everything I saw when I was younger, or when I really started getting into the Beatles and really appreciating who Ringo Starr is. It's like I just saw it there, and again, like when we saw Daltrey and the Who a week or so ago, I was amazed at his vocals. Right. I mean, it was the same thing, like between Ringo's voice, between his just his energy level, it's just incredible to me. I mean, we were talking earlier about I saw video of Ace singing, and I was like, I feel like he was, I hate to say it, like mailing it in. And you don't get any sense of that with Ringo, no matter how many shows he's done.
There was nothing mailing it in last night. And we spoke about also his energy kind of running around the stage for a guy who's in his 80s. I was blown away by that, that he has this guy. I mean, he obviously keeps himself in very good shape. And it was just inspiring to see somebody at 80 years old enjoying it that much still all these decades later. It's incredible to me.
Well, that's the thing too. It's, for me, it's like Ringo doesn't have to do this. It's not like, oh, he needs money and that's why he keeps doing this. He's doing it because obviously he loves it. He's got an incredible product. I mean, to me, it's like, I wish other people would. I mean, they have these fantasy camps. They have these different, when you go on a Kiss cruise, they'll have these jams. But if you really think it's a brilliant idea. It
really is.
Because and we haven't gotten, what I'm most excited is to get your opinion on this, because you knew Super Mario and I were going to be really excited about it.
Of course.
But, as a casual, I want to see Beatles fan, and I know you were very positive about the whole, Get Back, and, I think you went
very
back,
positive when I saw Paul McCartney.
Yeah,
5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever it was. Yeah. It's borderline one of my top 10 concerts ever. So, But I want to give my thoughts and opinions on last night with Super N here.
He said in a minute. It says that in a minute was about maybe 2 minutes ago. But
okay. No, but then while you were mentioning the Kiss angle, I thought it was interesting, because I did think last night, gee, what if Peter Criss would have done this 15, 20 years ago? Now, he might not have gotten the same type of caliber musicians to play with him. Maybe not. I don't know. But, when you're Ringo Starr, that's, I'm not even talking drumming skills. I'm just talking in terms of people wanting to play with you. You're the top of the list, right? So it's not a knock on Peter Criss. It's just you're Ringo Starr. You're number one in terms of anybody wanting to play with you.
First of all, let's just stop at the name. Is there a better rock and roll name than Ringo Starr? I mean, you want to talk about brilliance. And I know his name is Richard Starkey. I mean,
I was going to say, he had a little Richard Starkey.
Well, I mean, just the fact that Star was in his name,
Right.
you know, he kind of was given like a gift, you know, by God. You know, it's like, you know, but yeah, that would have been, you know what, I that's something, like, you know, Peter's always said like he loved like big band stuff, and he did that one
Yep.
record, One for All. I know it was, you know, very negative people felt about that, but like, what if Ringo? I mean, what if Peter would have gotten like Tony Bennett or whoever, you know, or even when
But do you
Rod
think
Stewart
Peter
would.
could have gotten those types of guys? And no disrespect to Peter.
You know, I think it all comes down to promoters and what they could sell.
Mhm.
And, you know, and I'm sure like when they look at this stuff, they have metrics on this to say like, all right, if we put this kind of lineup together, what kind of appeal, like how many tickets can we sell? You know,
Right.
do they put feelers out on that? I don't know how that mechanism works, but
Yeah, me neither.
you know, so,
Yeah.
but
All right.
yeah.
Well, I want to give my opinion on the show, but Super M is not here, so perhaps we're gonna have to do a cut and an edit here.
These damn PC Dell users,
I'm
you know what I
telling you, what
mean?
are we gonna do with these PC users, Vin?
I know. For those who have PCs now, no, they're going to be up in arms. You know what I
Of
mean? I'm
course.
sorry. Very
I'm gonna
biased.
lose a couple of hundred subscribers.
Yeah,
and
watch
say,
my
"What?"
computer go. Yeah, my computer goes down now. Watch this.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
but
But yeah, because I want to give my thoughts and opinions, but I want Super M to be here to hear them first. Because as we always do after the concert, we don't talk at all about the experience with each other.
yeah, no,
So-
riding in the car next to him was like a total stranger going home. I
That's
heard
great.
words. I'm like, who are you?
That's
No,
great.
it wasn't that. It
That's
wasn't that
great.
drastic. But
Yeah, I mean, for us, you and I were like, what, 20 hours, 18 hours since the concert ended, and we didn't talk at all about it. We spoke a little bit, you know, today to set this up, but you have no idea if I
Well-
liked it, loved it, hated it, or just thought it was average.
well, one of the things we could talk about is when we got in there, we saw there was signs that said no
Yes.
recording, and then immediately you said to me, what did you say?
I said, gee, this
Well,
seems
first
a
of-
little familiar. You know, I was just at Creatures Fest, 10 days ago, and Vinnie
Mhm.
Vincent did not allow any recording. And what a coincidence that here it is, the very next concert I'm at, and there's no photos, no videos. And I was like, wow, all right. And it's interesting because I remembered only once I saw the signs as I was walking in, that when I was at the Beacon 3 months ago, whatever it was, to see Slash, it was the same thing. They wanted no video and no photos. So let me ask you, what was your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, you heard I immediately was defending Ringo. I was like, don't start jumping to any conclusions. You know what I mean?
Yes, you did.
So I was like, and I think I said, I had the feeling this is a venue policy. You know, you know, so I did my little research. It doesn't take much. There's a search engine called Google.
Yes.
Very easy to use.
Very
It works
easy.
on Macs and PCs, as a matter of fact.
Look at that.
Yeah,
Maybe not on Mario's PC, but on
no, nothing's working on his. This is the longest minute on Earth. So what it says in their official FAQ on the Beacon Theater, which is actually it's part of MSG. I don't know MSG actually owns
Oh, wow.
the Beacon Theater. It says to respect all our guest experiences. Video cameras, monopods, tripods, selfie sticks, audio recording devices, and professional cameras, including telephoto and zoom lenses, will not be permitted inside the Beacon Theater. Now,
Interesting.
you could say, well, they didn't say cell phones, but
Right.
clearly they
Well,
don't
they can't
want you
stop cell
recording it.
phones. Right.
Yeah, right. So they're not
But
going to do a
here's
Vinnie
my
Vincent
question,
like.
though. How is somebody who has an audio recorder diminishing somebody else's enjoyment of the concert? Like, I can understand the phone
Well-
up in somebody's face. I get that. But an
Yeah.
audio recording that's sitting on somebody's lap, to me, does not diminish anybody's experience.
I agree with you 1,000%. Because that being said, you would have diminished so many people's experiences throughout the years with all the recordings you've done.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, most of the time somebody doesn't even know.
There's
you're
like the
doing that.
Terminator. You would have been the diminin. What's the word? Diminishing. Diminishing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're making up a word that doesn't exist.
It sounded good in my head, but I couldn't say it.
Yeah, you butchered that one. But
Diminish.
you know, for me, I
Terrible.
think terrible, absolutely
Yeah,
terrible.
yeah.
One of the so anybody who's watching this who's maybe a Beatles fan and doesn't know what we're talking about. So Vinnie Vincent, guitar player for Kiss from 1982 to 1984, kind of went MIA for about 25 years, has not done a public performance until just recently, last weekend. And it was his first public performance in quite some time. He was going to do electric lead guitar. And then as people were walking in, they said, no video, no photos, right? And a lot of Kiss fans were up in arms about that. So of course I couldn't help but compare that experience to last night when I get there and there's no video, no audio. The one thing I noticed, Vin, I was curious what you thought about this, is that it seemed like an overwhelming majority of people, I'm going to say like 99% of people, seem to listen and adhere to that. You didn't, like, I looked around, I saw nobody with phones really out. And if you did, security just walked over nicely and just asked you to stop or whatever. But one of the things, like the Vinnie Vincent thing, people were like, well, screw you, I'm going to try to record it anyway. Whereas last night, I think people were like, you don't want me to record? I'll put my phone in my pocket. That's okay. And they seem to, did you get that same impression?
Oh yeah, definitely did. And it might be just, let's face facts, Kiss fans are ravenous, you know what I mean? And that was an event to be ravenous about, you know, the first time. So, and I think people felt like, listen, I paid for this, you know, and we've said it's not like it was a crazy amount of money. It was actually a bargain if you think about what you get for the weekend. You said that. Yes. But you know, you want to get there, you want to record, you want to have this as a keepsake. And I could understand why fans, especially if they weren't given notice, were upset about that. But yeah, I saw very little towards the end, I think.
Yeah.
Last couple of songs you saw a little, because now they figure, all right, it's almost over. But there was no, I didn't see anything crazy. I didn't see people have to like struggle with a security person or anything like that, which you don't want anything to get escalated, you know? So.
Now, when you saw a security guard, and I don't know if you noticed it, like maybe walking over to somebody to tell them stop, did you find that distracting at all during the show?
No, what I did find not distracting but entertaining was there was a gentleman down who was, you know, there was this big dude and
security guard,
security guard. I think they were doing like Down Under, and he was like singing like every note, and that was fun to see. Like the guys there to do security, you know, and usually they're just sitting there like this and not even looking, and even more, it might have been that one. Like Bissonette is like freaking singing the lyrics to the song. You could see there were certain songs Bissonette was more excited to play for whatever reason. And what it really kind of reminded me is like how great, like especially the Toto stuff and the Men at Work, how great the 80s were and how blessed we were to grow up during that time where these were our top 10, top 20 hits, and we just didn't think much of it. And these songs are now like, I mean, they just never get tired to, and you know, and you heard like the applause after like a lot of the Toto stuff and the Men at Work stuff. To me, was the most applause you heard, maybe even more so than like maybe when they did Yellow Submarine, which was joyous. You know, like I remember when Yellow Submarine was on. Like, how can you not have fun with this song?
You said that to me during that song.
Yeah, I was like, listen to this. We all live in a yellow submarine. You know what I mean?
You definitely,
as silly as it sounds, you know.
You absolutely said that to me, but I noticed that what you're saying, and with the security guard. And what was the first song? I don't know the guy's name, but from the Average White Band, the bass player. What was the first song that they did that was from his band? Oh, it's like it's basically an instrumental one.
Pick Up the Pieces. That's probably their most famous. It's actually a song I cover. So
does it really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was a little insulted when you turned to me. You're like, you know this song, right? I'm like, I wanted to be like, are you kidding me right now? Do I know this song?
I don't know. You know, I was ready to do that if you said you didn't. So it's funny. So good thing.
I definitely knew that song, but I noticed the security guard, like you were saying, he was all like dancing and boogieing. And I was like, this is great. He's having a time of his life, and he was doing his job. I saw him walking around, and you know, if there was an issue for him to address, he was addressing it. But in between, he was definitely having a good time, and it kind of made it even more fun for me noticing that. But go ahead, what were you gonna say?
No, good. Yeah, no.
I was gonna say, but when the security was coming up a couple of times to tell people to put cameras away, and again, it was very far and few between. I did find it a little bit distracting for me. And yes, it seems like you're nodding your head no. So I guess it wasn't a distraction.
I don't think maybe I really either didn't I didn't notice it, or I was really. I mean, you could see like. I mean, I felt it the whole night. I was so fixated on what was going on. You know, I was smiling, and as I kept on saying, I'm thoroughly thrilled. I'm just like, you know what I mean? I was just like, you know, I was just, so I think I was just constantly just looking, and before we knew, because I said to Super M, I said, is somebody going to come out on these keyboards? He goes, oh, wait until you hear who's coming out.
Yeah,
like,
I remember.
This is kind of strange. Like, they don't have them out yet. Like, but that's kind of, I was like, kept waiting. I'm looking on the side. I see the guy.
Super M is about to rejoin.
My apologies.
Thank you, everybody, for watching, and have a good night.
Good show. Good show.
I'm kidding, man.
I'm so sorry.
Hey, look, this is technology for you. And actually, I took some time to Vin and I to talk a little bit about Greg Bissonette's drumming, since I figured Vin was the drummer. And I wanted to get Vin's thoughts on the fact that you weren't allowed to take video and pictures yesterday, because Vin and I just did an episode, a week and a half ago, about Vinnie Vincent and not being allowed to video and audio. So I figured it was a good time for me to pick his brain on those things, but we did not get into the details of the concert yet and what I thought of it, because That's
what I'm most excited about.
Because I said I wanted to give my initial thoughts with you here, because you being the big Beatle fan, Vinny being the big Beatle fan, and Vin knows when I went to see The Who with him, 2 weeks ago tomorrow, I think it is, I left somewhat unimpressed, so, right, Vin, I mean, you remember me saying that, I'll start off with my thoughts of the Ringo show last night.
Wait, can I make it official?
Of course.
Okay. So Mike, me and Mario, or Super M as we love to call him, we're lifelong Beatles fans. We were going to have a great time.
Is there any Beatles song he could have played last night that either of the two of you did not know? Is there a chance for that to happen? Do you know every Beatles song in the catalog?
Yeah.
I don't, but
Mario's like, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he does. Because he's listened to every bootleg, every this and that. Right. I haven't, he is definitely the super fan. I am not a super fan. I may be a super Kiss fan, but I am not a super fan.
I'd say, though, you're one step below super fan for the Beatles, in my mind.
Well, I mean, this guy, he could look at the label. Well, this one was printed at the Texas factory, and the ring color is this. He knows all that. So I don't know any of that stuff. Right. So he's definitely notches above me.
There is no Texas factory, but go ahead.
Oh, wow.
I know that. I know that. Well, wow, that's a little hurtful. I was just making something up, but
correction here.
Yeah.
Man.
So
Mario, you said something while we were eating last night that he's doing a song this year on tour, and you had said to me, if I remember right, he'd only done it 4 other times, not 4 tours, 4 other performances before this tour. So when I left last night, and again, we didn't talk after we left, I was like, I wonder what song Mario was talking about. So enlighten me now. What song is it? Because I might know after reading a little bit today, but I'm curious.
Well, it's Octopus's Garden, which we discussed at full length when we did the Get Back podcast.
Yeah.
And he only did it with the Roundheads. He never really did it with the All-Star Band. And
now, why is that? Do you know? Because to me, that's one of his signature songs. I would have been stunned last night if he didn't do that.
I'm not sure why.
Good thing he did. Another show would have been disappointed. I would have had to hear it for freaking weeks.
Exactly.
But he hasn't done the No song. He hasn't done Only You. He hasn't done a lot of his hit singles from the 70s. So he kind of balances between the lead vocal that he did for the Beatles and for a smattering of hits from the 70s.
Okay. There's the one song that, and I know it's a cover, and we were talking about this at dinner, and I'm assuming it's on this album, right? So Mary, you were telling me at dinner how in the early 70s, I guess, he did an album of all cover tunes, right?
Yes, he did the Great American Songbook. Yeah.
And is that the album that has the song You're 16 on it?
No.
No, okay. So see, I just assumed based off that conversation. So I just showed off my lack of fandom there. So, because in my mind, I know that's a cover song, but I grew up with that in my mind being a Ringo All-Starr song. So that was the one song last night. I'm like, oh, I was surprised he didn't do that. But I knew it was a cover and I knew it wasn't his. So it didn't. Well, it's not like when I went to see the Who when they didn't do some of their biggest hits. This one I let it go. Yes, right. Mr. LaRussa.
Do you really want these days to be singing "You're 16, You're Beautiful, and You're Mine"? I mean,
probably not when you're 80 years old, also, right?
Yeah, and it's especially in this crazy world we live in now, where everything. So I could see why he stays away from that song.
Well, Kiss still does, at least sometimes on the cruise, Christine 16. Only they say they're going to change it to Christine 60. So he could have changed it to "You're 60."
Yeah,
and then it would have been totally fine.
Right.
All right, so but Octopus's Garden, wow, I'm shocked that he never did that really on tour before this year. That's interesting.
Yeah. And I've read a couple articles, and he knows people wanted it, but he just never put it in the set list. Now, from what I understand, on a Beatle podcast that a friend of mine alerted me to, they had 35 songs rehearsed for this tour.
Oh, wow.
So when I'm a little disappointed that since Edgar Winter wasn't there for his 3, they didn't slot in another 3, because I think that would have been that would have been nice.
But now what's interesting is I looked at the set list that you and I did. Vinnie went in cold, but you and I looked at the set list beforehand. And the night before at the Beacon, he played like an hour and 50 minutes. And last night he played an hour and 45. So
Well, it's three less songs. It's three less songs. I just looked.
Is
Yeah,
it
21?
what three songs could you easily see? What
Yeah,
three songs
it was
missing?
it was the Edgar Winter, it was Frankenstein, it was
Right.
Free Ride, and he did Johnny Be Good cover.
Johnny
Okay.
B. Good, right.
Yeah.
But yet the show was only 5 minutes shorter. So that's interesting.
Well, maybe that guitar solo was
Maybe.
ad-libbed. You know,
I said that.
Oh, you
I
did.
said that
He
to Mike.
said that
I
last
did that.
night. Yep.
I said, Lukather's doing this super long solo. I'm like, wait a second. I was like, okay, this is a great solo, but I've been on the stage when you got to keep the set going and you don't have enough time. I like, oh, this has that stench. This is an extended solo. Even I think one time the sax guy or whatever the guy's name, Ham.
Ham.
Right? Yeah. Which was ironic because I believe the Men at Work guy who played the keyboards, it was Greg Ham.
That's right. Yes, you are right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Ooh,
Yeah.
good call, Alvin.
So it was 3 songs less, and I feel the same as what Mario. Like it would have been nice, but I don't know.
Well, I'll say this. Go ahead. You finish your thought.
Also, you said about the keyboards. They probably set up Monday or Sunday, whatever, and they just leave it on the stage. He's playing there 4 nights straight. Why break it down? So his keyboard rig is probably there.
You don't think they broke that down for tonight, though? I know he's playing there again tonight. I gotta think they take him off stage.
Maybe for tonight, because he's got to be. But what I'm saying, you said, well, I think we were kind of like, oh, we were surprised we saw the keyboards and all that, but it was probably because the night before it was already there.
Yeah.
And they probably like it might have been a last minute decision or whatever, and it might have been more to take apart and with the cabling and stuff like. Let's just leave it alone. But I'd be curious if we see some footage. Well, we can't because
if somebody sneaks a photo or a video or whatever, quick clip, then I'll keep an eye out for that. But having Edgar Winter missing did not matter to me one bit. I hate to say that.
Yeah, well, that's because you're not a fan like we are of traditional classic rock. I like to say, yeah, you like Zeppelin, you casually like the Stone. You like a couple of Who songs.
Well, I like more than a couple of Who songs. I just don't like the ones they performed that night.
Are you a big Boston fan? Are you an REO Speedway? You as a youngster, I don't remember you ever really being big into those classic rock bands. No. So, I mean, I know you. I think you had. I remember you having like Hotel California in your record collection
I do,
when we were younger. Sure. But
I gravitated more towards the Sabbaths and the Van Halens. If you're talking about 70s bands,
and Rupert Holmes,
of course, yes.
Joe Dolce, who had that classic "Shut Up." Yeah,
I actually have one of those 45s a few feet away from me over here right now, but that's another story. But I gravitated more towards the Sabbaths and Van Halens and the Kisses in the 70s than Boston and Foreigner and that type of stuff.
This really does have the feel of like, what do they call it? A finale. Because I still want to know how you felt about the friggin' show.
All right, so everybody, I got to go now. I actually thought it was phenomenal. I would not put it up there in Paul McCartney territory, and that's one of the things I was thinking about during the show. But it made me, I hate to go back to the Who again. It made me about halfway through the show last night. It made me realize how disappointed I was with the Who, because I didn't know but this is what I'm going to say. I didn't know.
It's not a fair comparison. But
it's a fair comparison. They're both classic artists.
No.
That I had not seen. Shut up. It's my show.
I know. I'm going to tell you why it's not a fair comparison. If you went to just see Ringo Starr and Ringo Starr alone, you're comparing it to the Who, that's a fairer comparison. But I know how much you love Men at Work, right? So when you hear those 3 songs, you're going to get thoroughly excited. But those are not Ringo Starr songs. Yes, it's his all-star band. So there's a different dimension that gets added to the show that you don't get with the Who show. So I think it's an unfair comparison.
That is fair. And I would say this, if his all-star lineup was different and maybe artists I didn't enjoy, I might have felt a little bit different. Now, again, not that I'm the biggest Toto fan in the world, but in fact, what was the third Toto song they did? Their first hit?
Hold the Line.
Hold the Line. Thank you.
Hold the Line. Yeah.
I actually forget that that's a Toto song. You know, in my
Yeah.
mind, it's Africa and Rosanna. And when they start doing that,
Yeah.
I'm like, I forgot, this is a damn good song.
Right?
Damn good
Yeah.
song. You know, so
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. The All-Star lineup helps. But we were talking when we first started about Ringo's energy, his enthusiasm. And I've said this, you know, I remember, Mario, the first time you were on, I think you asked me, Mike, why are you a Kiss fan? I think is what you said to me. And my answer was, well, because music's supposed to be fun and Kiss is fun, right? And that's the way I feel about music just in general. And then you said it to me last night, and Mario, you touched on it before. Ringo Starr's just happy and having fun. And if you can't feed off of that, like I said, there was probably 3 to 5 songs I didn't know last night. And it did not matter to me, not one bit, because he's having fun, he's smiling, he's being his, you know, I'll say goofy self, you know, for lack of knowing. And I'm just enjoying it. And I'm freaking living in the moment. And I'm like, this is just fun. It's the way a concert's supposed to be. I don't need a pompous ass yelling at the crowd that we don't take, you know, requests from the crowd or whatever, you know. And that's, look, Pete Townsend.
He's referred to Pete Townsend, by the way.
Which is, you know,
yeah.
Look, he's legendary and he's a musical genius, but it's a different attitude coming from the stage. And, you know, Roger Daltrey wasn't allowed to talk to the crowd. It seemed like, you know, this was just fun. It was relaxed. And it was, that to me is everything that a concert was supposed to be so that's why I compare it, Vin, because to me, it was night and day, the type of performance it was last night. And Ringo Starr, that's, again, yes, you're right. I love the All-Star band he had with him. But again, I'm not the biggest Toto fan in the world here, but it was just the energy off that stage was, I thought, phenomenal.
Yeah.
No, I don't just get married.
No,
Go ahead, Mario.
it was old school musicians doing what they do best.
Yes.
And as we were filing out, I don't think you saw anybody frowning.
Not at all.
Or upset. Oh, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. You know, there's, you know, I think he had like 10 or 11 chart singles that charted in the 70s. And he only did a few of them. But you know, but he does everything so genuinely happy that you don't really, you know, you don't nitpick over that kind of stuff, you know.
Yep.
So he tapped into this formula. In 1989, he announced that he was going to do these All-Stars, and he's been ever evolving since. And you know, God bless him. He looks great. He sounds great, and he plays phenomenal. I'll leave that to Vin.
Yeah.
I think I covered that part.
But you know, but I want to go back to that now that Mario's here, because I did have one comment that I held back on that I wanted to hear both of your thoughts on. If I had one,
don't let me drive to your house. Don't let me drive to your house.
If I had one disappointment in the show last night, and you touched on this before a little bit, Vin, is that Ringo's drums were a little lower in the mix, which I don't have an objection to that. But I wish there was one song, that's it, just one, where Greg Bissonette was not on the stage. And I knew as I'm watching and listening that I was only listening to Ringo. And that's not a knock on Greg, because Greg was a phenomenal drummer. I mean, I just complimented him at the start of this big time. Yeah. But I'm there to see Ringo Starr. And I wish there was just one of the Beatles classic songs. I just wish it was only him on drums. That was my one complaint last night.
So let me just say that, and then Mario could weigh in on this one too. Because this is the experience with Mike Brunn, not the experience with the chemist.
It's all three of our show today, my friends.
But the funny thing is, I think that's a very good point. That was lucid, well thought of. Overruled. Yeah. But it's funny, and you're right. I agree with you 1,000%. However, I never thought about it the whole night, because I think I was just loving everything I was hearing and seeing, and the fact that he just always looked like he was having a great time playing along with Greg. And what I would see him do was, like, if Greg did a fill like this, he would do something a little different, or he hit a crash there and whatever, you know. You could see they weren't totally in sync with their drum fills, which you don't really want that. You kind of want where you see playing off a little bit. But that is a great, for one song, one Beatles classic, tune, would have been. I'm not saying I don't expect them to play drums on Hold the Line, like playing drums on Hold the Line, But yeah, that's a like you, Mario. You mentioned the song you mentioned about the drum roll. Like he did the drum roll. You said, he did the drum roll like it was
when they did Boys. It looked like Washington D.C. 1964. He was just playing.
Hands were incredible.
Oh, it was like lightning. I thought it was fantastic. And then this morning I was asking myself just a question. Did he play well for an 82-year-old, or did he just play well? And I have to drop the 82-year-old portion of the question, because I just think he plays fantastic. And when I'm sitting there, I don't think of him as, oh my God, he's 82. This isn't going to last. I'm like, wow, this guy's 82 and he has like no plans of stopping. So,
you know, Mary, I think you bring up a great point, because to me, and Ben, this is where I'm going to lean on your expertise. Ringo Starr was never the most technical drummer. Nobody's going to be mistaken him for like Bonham or something like that. However, he had a certain feel to his playing. Oh, you put your hand down. I'll give you a turn in a minute. He had a certain feel to his playing always, at least for my novice ears with this. And that feel to me was not lacking last night, you know, when I watched and listened to him. So I would agree with you there, Mario. Absolutely, to me, he didn't seem to have missed a beat. Again, no pun intended there. Vincent's really dying now. So, but let's see, maybe Mario, you and I can talk about something different now instead.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead, Vin.
We'll talk about rice pudding.
Yeah. We should talk about the rice pudding.
That's it. Insert the photo. I'm going to give it to you. That's
the rice pudding that was like 8,500 calories that, you know, Mario and I made you inhale in about 15 seconds. Right?
Yeah. The rice pudding boat that I had.
That's right.
Let me just say this. You know, I've defended Peter Criss.
Yes.
Right? Because we've heard similar things. I don't want to hear about him not being a technical drummer, and I'll tell you why. First of all, he was a left-handed drummer playing on a right-handed set. So everything he had to do, he had to think differently to play on that set. Now, for whatever reason, you know, he didn't just get a left-handed set.
I know somebody else who, when he was 17, was left-handed playing on a right-handed set.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was the next Ringo Starr. I never knew it.
But you played open-handed like this, if you remember. You wouldn't cross your hands. But so as a lefty, you know, it's like anything. You throw a ball. If you're right-handed, you throw it with your right. So that's number one. Again, I talk about signature things you never heard before on record. Listen to the drum groove on "In My Life." Right? Listen to the Tom Petty song "Breakdown." All he did was add swing to it, and he admitted, the drummer, that he took that from Ringo Starr. Ringo Starr, if you listen to a lot of, whether it's a drum fill, whether it's a drum beat, were innovative groups that were never on record before. So where's that? That's technical skill and ability. Yes, he was not Neil Peart. You know what I mean? Yes, he was not Buddy Rich. However, he did things on those drums, just like Keith Moon did, just like Ian Pace did, just like John Bonham did, that wasn't done before. And a lot of those guys, I mean, how many people, just like you heard with Kiss, I wanted to play music when I heard, you know, the Beatles, when I saw them on Ed Sullivan. So I just want to eliminate that technical thing. You know, I get it to a point, but I think that's a myth.
All right, so Vin, you're saying obviously Ringo doesn't get enough credit as a drummer, and I tend to agree with you, right? A lot of people just look at the technical side of things.
Why has it got to be tend to agree? Why can't you just say I agree?
Well, because I think at the end of the day, if you want to look at difficulty of playing, etc., I'm not saying he doesn't have a certain feel, just like Peter Criss, right? We've been down this road before, but I think
no. It's unacceptable. I'll tell you why. Can I give you another? Let me give you. Can I give you more evidence? Valuable evidence. All right, ready?
Let's hear this.
Okay. I have heard many a drummer, including myself, play the AC/DC classic "Back in Black." Do you know how that drum beat goes?
Yeah.
Kick.
Yeah.
And there's something about being in the pocket.
Yep.
It takes technical skill and ability. Even at the simplest of drum beats, still you have to be highly technical to get into that feel. So don't be fooled by, when you see a guy, like I said, like Neil Peart or like Carl Palmer, or whomever, you know, who has this masterful technique, Stuart Copeland, you know, come on, there's something to be said about playing simple and playing great. So, I'm going to get off it.
I won't get fooled again.
There you go.
I see what you did there.
But you know, but going back to the original comment before that I made about Ringo not playing any songs on his own, Right. I think Vin kind of overtook the conversation here, Mario. So let's bring you back in.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts, Mario, as a longtime diehard Beatle fan? Did you not care that he played no songs on his own, or do you kind of had my thought as well? Hey, I wish one song.
You would think at least one song, but I gotta be honest, I was having such a good time. It never crossed my mind
Okay.
that he should have. And now that you mention it, I'm like, yeah, well, maybe one song. Why not?
So now do you regret coming on the podcast because I've just ruined the experience a little bit?
Hey, Super Mario, virtual high five, because we both think alike. Come on, virtual high five.
No, there was so much to enjoy about the show that it is Ringo Starr's show. I mean, he's the star of the show without a doubt. So maybe he could find room for one song. Yeah, but it didn't take away the enjoyment, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I will agree with you there as well, Mara, is that it did not take away the enjoyment at all. I mean, I just said before that, I thoroughly enjoyed the show. Yeah. But walking out, I was like, I just wish, having never seen the Beatles play, having never seen Ringo Starr play, I wish there was just one song I knew when I was listening. And a lot of times I was watching the drums, especially Ringo, throughout the night. And there was only one song I could remember, even myself, hearing Ringo doing the fills. And Mario, you're going to help me with this because I'm going to butcher it. But I don't know. It was one, I'm guessing it's one of Ringo's songs. And it was like, Bungalow or Bigelow or something like that.
Back off Boogaloo.
Back off Boogaloo. I told you I was going to butcher it. And if I remember it right, Ringo started at the front of the stage. Vin's discussing with me right now. But Ringo started in the front stage just singing. And then somewhere like in the middle of the song, he actually walked behind the drums and started playing. And that was the only time I noticed, at least that I noticed all night, where they deferred to him to do drum fills. And he did just like little fills in the little bit, but I was like, I wish there was a little bit more of that. If he wasn't going to do his own song, just playing drums himself, I wish there was more where I knew, hey, that drum fill was him, it's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's a fun track, and the drumming for that I really like. And it was nice that he started out center stage, and then he felt the need to go behind the kit and play along, because it really is a good song. It's a good song.
Am I right? Is that one of his solo songs?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because that's one I did not. I don't know if that. I know you've told me that he had like 10 or 11. There you go. Is that the single?
That's the single.
Okay.
Or as Mike would say, Battle of Buffalo Bill.
Or is that just the Gigolo? Was it?
There's actually a very good video that goes with that. It's on YouTube. You should seek it out.
All right, I'll have to check that out. I mean, but there definitely was one song I did not. Like I said, there was like 3 to 5 songs I didn't know, and that was definitely one of them. But I did enjoy listening to his drumming in the song. Yeah. And like I said, I just wish there was a little bit more where I didn't hear Greg Bissonette doing the fills. I wish I heard Ringo doing the fills a little bit more. So that's just
okay.
You were going to say something, Vin?
Well, no. One thing I was going to say about him playing the drums, and one of the things that I took note of, and it's kind of a rare thing, is that the fact that after all these years, and Mario, help me with the math. How many years have the Beatles been playing music, or Ringo been playing drums as a Beatle?
As a Beatle from 1963.
Right, so that's how many years. They're coming up on 60 years now of him,
coming
up
on 60 years. Coming up on
60 years of playing one drum set, Ludwig. When I saw the Ludwig drum set on the stage, there's so many guys, whether you play guitar, bass, drums, whatever, they get different various endorsements. He is Ringo Starr. And I'm sure throughout the years, a company like DW, or whomever, probably made offers like, think about it. Of all the drummers on the planet, who you want to say, it's like he's a Beatle, for God's sakes, Mm-hmm. So I just love the fact that I still saw his, I think it was either Black Oyster Pearl or Gray Oyster Pearl Ludwig drum set on that stage. Like, just when we got to our seats and I just saw the setup with the bass drum head that said Ludwig and the star on it, I was like, you feel like you're at home. Right?
I was awestruck by that as well. That was great.
Yeah, it's joyous. These things, as I think, as musicians especially, I appreciate it. Mario because Mario is a musician himself, songwriter. Mm-hmm. We should mention that on the air. So it's just like was a really, really cool visual. And just seeing the whole stage, and like what I'm doing before the show starts, and you don't know this, but I don't know who's on the stage, who's going to play it, but I'm looking at the amps. I'm like, who plays those amps? You know, and I'm looking at the brands. Like, I'm trying to figure out just by the equipment who's going to be on that stage. I came up with a goose egg, but that's how, like, I really get like how. But that's how I really get into like just seeing, because as Kiss fans, we always see that curtain that says Kiss, and I mean, we know what's going to happen, of course. But I don't know. There's something really cool about, you know, arriving at the arena, and Mario had never been to the Beacon Theater, which I was stunned at. And it's just, you know, we were basically like practically on the roof, you know, but we were center stage, and the Beacon, no matter really where you sit, you know, we had a direct view down.
Yes.
And with the lighting and everything that was going on before they started, it just looked beautiful. It was just like a beautiful sight, even before the band even hit. And then even now, when those lights go down, you get that feeling, right? You get the goosebumps, like, and I think I actually like shot up in my seat or something. Like I was like really, like as soon as that moment happened, I think that's what music does. It makes you feel like a kid again. Like you remember those moments when you were younger, you went to your first concert or your favorite band, you know, and that's what I love getting out of going to see shows.
Yeah. And I could say this, Vin, I don't know. I mean, we might have been to 100 shows together in our lifetime, maybe more, maybe less. Who the hell knows, right? But we've been to a lot of shows together. I can't remember ever seeing you as genuinely excited. I don't even think when you were seeing Kiss at Madison Square Garden in 2019 in whatever was the second row.
Yeah.
You were excited because, all right, it was Madison Square Garden, you were going to be close, etc. I can't recall ever seeing you so excited to see a performer the way it was last night with Ringo Starr and genuine excitement in your face.
Well, it was a couple of things. First of all, I had my two best buds next to me. I insisted on being in the middle. You heard me. I'm sitting in the middle.
Yes, you did say that.
I wanted you to be the bread. I was going to be the cheese or the ham. Probably the ham because I can't shut up.
You want to be able to turn to both of us and
say, I wanted that, you know. And so you have that feeling of being with your buds. You know, we hadn't experienced a show together. You know, we've talked. We've done a couple of podcasts together. I see Mario all the time. Obviously, I see you all the time. So that in itself was a great experience of just, you know, having you guys there. And yeah, you know, maybe it surprised even myself. Maybe I just got caught up in everything. And as we've always talked, as we get older, we appreciate things more. The only time I could really remember being with you, except for when we went to go see Bon Jovi and I practically ruined your bootleg tapes because I'm screaming all over the place, you know. But
you were 17, so I'll cut you some slack.
Exactly. But remember when we saw the indoor show with Kiss and they did Strutter?
Yes.
And how excited I was. Right. Because really, when I heard that in that room, the sound, I was just like literally blown away because that room, and for those who haven't ever been on a Kiss cruise, I know this is not about the Kiss cruise, but there's something about the sound of that room that's just, it's a great sounding room on those ships. You wouldn't think it.
It really is.
It's a phenomenal, and you don't get the bombs and all the craziness, you know, it just was like, and just hearing that song, I was like, that's the only other time I remember being with you where I was that, like, I was visibly excited and yelling and whatever I was doing.
So then I'm curious, as two lifelong Beatles fans and both of you big fans, what was the highlight for you? Let's go Mario first. What was the highlight for you last night?
Oh, I love the song Photograph. It's co-written with George Harrison. And it's just one of those songs that captured me. I'm a second generation Beatle fan. So when those songs came on my little AM radio when I was a kid, they stuck with me, you know. Oh My was a great song. Photograph was a great song. It Don't Come Easy. And the Beatles had all these wonderful solo songs, and you know, like, and I got the tap on the shoulder. Hey, you know, they were a band at one point, you know. So, but so Photograph did it for me. I remember buying the 45 when I was a kid, and
Corvettes.
That was EJ Corvettes, yes.
That's great.
Yeah, so that did it for me. But there were other moments throughout the show that were great, but that's one song that just stays with me.
I can understand that. What about you, Vin?
So this one, my answer might be a little bit controversial because we're talking about Ringo All-Starr and his All-Star band. You know, there was something about, you know, I mean, look, I love so many parts of what Ringo did, so let's not get confused. But I guess I never saw Men at Work back in the day. I always wish I had, the original lineup. I even saw they're going to be on tour. I think it'll be with
Rick
Rick
Springfield and
Springfield and
somebody else, I think. I don't
yeah.
remember.
And I was like,
yeah,
I was like, I would definitely go see that. And I think you and I even discussed it,
Agreed.
And now and I knew Colin A was a great performer. I've heard him sing live, and he hasn't really missed the beat. As a matter of fact, that's also that should be noted. You mentioned the guy, the ham guy, the other ham. That's not me. Whatever the other ham guy was.
There's another ham.
There's another ham.
Keyboardist ham.
Yeah, there's another keyboardist.
Flute player ham.
Yeah. He was doing a lot of the high parts, like in Hold the Line.
Africa, I remember him doing. Well, no, didn't Colin Hay do that? Colin Hay did the high parts of Africa, right?
Yes. Then a lot to take me away from you.
Yeah,
which I was like, right. Thank you for that.
Yes.
Because again, I'm just listening to this. I'm like, this is great. Like these guys were competing somewhat at the time, Did they ever think they were going to cross-pollinate? Like, I'm going to be singing Africa, playing the chords, learning your songs. You're going to be, but I think there was something about, like, again, the 80s. I love the 70s. I love the 80s. Those are, my two favorite decades. And hearing those songs that I remember when that Business as Usual album came out, and how much I listened to that record, how much I used to watch. I think there was a videotape that they had put out at some point early in their career for Men at Work. And I had a copy of that concert, and we watched it and watched the videos. You remember? So now you're remembering when when we used to watch videos and how exciting Friday night videos were for us in New York, because we didn't have MTV. So I don't know. It's just like those moments and those songs, I could still listen to them like when I first heard them and loved them. I have never gotten tired of those Toto songs or those Men at Work songs. And it was just something about how great the band is, because he's got an incredible band. Yep. And then just seeing Ringo, like, and he's playing Down Under. I'm like, it's just that whole thing.
I thought this
was my favorite moments.
Yeah, and I can understand. And I thought this as I was watching Ringo at one point. If you silhouetted Ringo and just watch the silhouette, and you didn't see the face and you just saw the body movements, you'd know it was Ringo. That's one of the things that, as I'm watching him last night, I'm like, you could silhouette him right now, and I damn well know that that's Ringo on the drums right now. Nobody else could look like him playing drums.
There was times that Mario can tell you where he would play the hi-hat and he would do this swooshing movement with his hand, and very fast, But and yesterday when he was playing, like, and I've always said, like, when you see a guy who has, in my opinion, good technique, they're not playing all arm like this. They're playing kind of with their wrists, and he's got this smooth, like he's a panther or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, how is he? Yeah, like, how is he doing this at this age? Like, he's got obviously this incredible flexibility. I was at your house a month ago trying to walk up a hill. I'm like, remember that? And I'm like, I go, yes, man.
I do. Mario, I'm sorry, you finish your thought.
No, I'm done.
I was going to say, Mario, one of the things I wondered, kind of piggybacking off of what Vin was saying last night with the Men at Work songs, the Toto songs, etc. Have you ever heard has Ringo said ever that he was a fan of those bands? Like I wonder what makes him choose the guys that he chooses. Obviously they're top-notch musicians and they got hit songs. But as Vin was saying, like Ringo playing Who Could It Be Now on drums, I'm wondering, like, in, what was it, 82, 83, when that song was a hit, was Ringo like, oh, that's a good song? Have you ever heard him comment on it?
The only thing that I know about how you get into the All-Star band is that you had to have 3 hit singles. Okay. And now, do people ask him, or does he ask people, to be in the band? I'm not sure. But that's the criteria. And I don't think he's mentioned anything above and beyond that. I think you have to have 3 hit songs.
Okay.
And he wants you to play those 3 hit songs.
Right. That's interesting. Because that was one of the things I thought of as I'm watching the show. I'm like, Ringo is a friggin' living legend. He's a Beatle, right? You can't get any better than that. But what was his thoughts on Rosanna when it came out? Did he even know those songs back then? Or, what did he think of them? It's one thing, like Vin, you were saying, the cross-pollination, Toto, Men at Work, etc. But what did Ringo Starr? I wish I'd love to hear what his thoughts were on some of these songs, because I agree with you. Those are some of the highlights for me, even though I loved hearing him do Yellow Submarine. To me, like, if I was thinking of Ringo songs, he's singing that song, I'm like, this is freaking great. This is typical. This is classic Ringo to me right now. So, I love that as well.
I'm sorry.
Go, Mario.
No,
You first.
go, Mario.
Well, Steve from Toto,
Toto.
they were actually having a little conversation about how they become really good friends. So maybe in the early going, it was I kind of know who you are,
Right.
but I definitely know who you are, kind of thing.
Exactly.
But they've become very good friends. So so that's that's a plus,
Agreed.
because it's a different, not a huge age gap, but there's a gap there, as far as music goes. Sure.
And the thing is, like the songs like Rosanna, and especially like Africa, when other bands like Weezer are covering them,
Mhm.
or Foo Fighters is covering the Bee Gees or whatever. These songs have obviously proven, their rock and roll pop stance. You know what I mean? They're almost they're undeniably great. Yeah, I mean I'm sure there are people who don't like some of those songs. It's got to be,
Well, I want to say this, but I'm glad you're bringing it up, and you brought up Weezer. So I jokingly said with you last night when they were doing Africa, I turned to you and said, "Isn't this a Weezer song?" And I said that as a joke because Weezer recently covered it and had a hit. Now, anybody who knows me knows I'm a big Weezer fan. They might be my second favorite band of all time behind Kiss.
Wow.
And when I saw Weezer last year in concert, of course, they did Africa. And I sat there, when's this song going to be over? I couldn't wait. I was like, I'm not a huge fan of the song, and I'm definitely not a huge fan of Weezer doing that song. And then last night I'm watching it and like, this is damn good. Wow, that's just a testament to me to the band. I mean, and again, I'm a huge Weezer fan, so I'm not knocking their cover of it. But last night, that performance from those guys, I'm like, this is just a top-notch performance. And I actually grew a better appreciation of the song last night.
Really good. That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I personally never liked the Weezer version.
Okay, I can understand that.
I think that's just because the original is just. I mean, the benchmark was set so damn high on that. It's really high. But
I don't think it's their type of song that they should be covering, but that's a whole different podcast. So we don't even need to go there.
Exactly.
But
right.
Vin, I just wanted to say one other thing about the drumming because this was on my mind also last night.
Yes.
I was quote, and I'm using air quotes here if you're not watching, criticizing that Ringo didn't play one song on his own, just on drums. But the flip side of that is with the two of them playing drums together, I was mesmerized all night that, at least for my ears, not once did I hear like I'll say a ghost note on the snare drum. It was amazing. The two of them lockstep the whole night. Bang, 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 bang. And never a fraction of a second off. Now, I've never seen two drummers like that in a live setting for a full show. And they're both obviously top-notch musicians, but that was one of the things that amazed me is like, there was not a single fraction of a second difference between those snare drums all night long.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. I gotta believe there was no click tracks being used, so that makes it even more difficult. Because if you're not listening to a click on for the both drummers to keep in sync, and you're listening to stage volume or monitoring, and again, at his age of what he's trying to do, that's what really kind of blew me away. Because I was watching them the whole night together. To your point of what you said, just watching to see if they were in sync. And yes, sometimes Greg would do a fill, and Ringo would just keep the groove going. Or sometimes Ringo would hit a crash cymbal, and Greg was still, So it was kind of nice to see a little bit of they were playing off each other a little bit. For the most part, Ringo just stayed in the pocket, Yeah. But if there was a drum fill or if there was he did like a simplified version, and maybe Greg did like a more whatever, But it never got in the way. And that, I to your point, I didn't hear a flam of this or that, misstep.
Nothing.
It's really, I mean, I wish you could have him on the show. Can we make this happen?
Hold on, Ringo. Yeah, hello. Maybe I get Greg because that might be more. I have a feeling no Beatle is appearing on a podcast. Just my guess here. But if they're watching, you're welcome to come on.
What do you usually say? I'm Mike Brunn, damn it. What do you say?
Actually, you say that because I'm always like, no, that'll never happen. That, and you're like, you're Mike Brunn, damn it, make it happen. But so Mario, for you then, haven't seen him once before. I think you said 2015 before. How does last night compare? I mean, to me, I look at somebody that in my mind and my ears hasn't lost a beat, but maybe you say, I can see a slight difference. What were your thoughts?
I think the first time I saw him, I was blown away by just the sheer joy of the evening. And he was with Peter Frampton and Jack Bruce, and it was a wonderful concert. And I love the setting. Jones Beach is just when it's not raining, is just beautiful. But last night, aside from the personnel changes, same joy, same type of thing. You know what you're getting. It's it's like maybe it's not quite like watching The Honeymooners. You know what's going to happen, but it's the fun factor is going to be there no matter what.
Agreed.
And I'm glad I saw two different versions of it. Because I never saw Peter Frampton do a show on his own, so it was nice to hear those songs, and of course Jack Bruce was wonderful. So both nights were great. I just neck and neck. It's a tie.
And you know what? I'm glad you just said that, because one of the thoughts that went through my mind is that prior to last night, one of my thoughts and one of my hesitations in previous years was always like, all-star band, that kind of seems like a cheesy idea to me. And that was past. I no longer think that, right? And about a third of the way through the show last night, I was like, man, what a freaking golden opportunity I missed, because I'm a big Night Ranger fan and Jack Blades played with him, whatever it was, 10 years ago, maybe even more at this point. And I'm like, man, Brunn, you blew it. That was probably been a great show. And man, your stupid mindset on that an all-star band was a cheesy idea.
So
could not have been more, I was 100% wrong. And I'm like, damn,
so
if only I could go back in time and see that, because I probably would have loved that.
If I could turn back time.
Right, Chef. Just don't come here on the podcast wearing her outfit, all right?
Yikes.
Oh, look at that. I made him get all choked up. But yeah, that was a thought that went through my mind about a third way through the show last night.
So that being said, would you go see Ringo and his all-star band again? Not so much this tour, but he does another tour with a different band. Would you be like, well, I got to see who he's playing with? Or are we like, listen, it was just a fun night. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'll just go.
I'd probably say, like, if you called me and said, hey, let's get the three of us back together and go see Ringo, I'd say, hey, it was a fun night. Let's go. I don't care who's in the band. I'll go. If I was buying a ticket, quote unquote, by myself, I'd probably want to know who was in the band with him, because if it was three guys that I don't like any of their music, now I'm hearing 9 songs that I don't like. All right, that's almost half the show,
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my follow-up question is going to be, this may be obvious, if the Who were to play again, but they're playing My Generation, Substitute, and some of the songs that they didn't play,
I can't explain. Yes, 100%. 100%.
Okay.
My complaint with the Who was totally just set list.
Yeah. So I at least I like that about you, because some people will be, I'm done with them. I'm never going to say that.
No. My complaint about the Who was set list, that some of their biggest hits. How could I go see the Who and not hear My Generation? That's a travesty to me.
Right.
That's
especially when the tour was billed as the Who bring the hits.
Right.
I would be in your shoes. I would say, all right, bring it on. I want to hear all the great songs. So.
Absolutely. And especially in my case, look, maybe if I've seen the Who 20 times, or if I'm a really big Who fan, then I'm excited about the set list. But having never seen the Who, I want the hits. I know there's going to be deep cuts or album cuts or whatever that I don't know. I'm okay. I was okay with that last night. I had no problem not knowing 4 or 5 songs. First off, they weren't 7 minutes each. They were fun songs. They're 3 minutes. They're great, catchy hooks. And I'm just looking at Ringo being all happy. And I'm like, I don't care if I don't know the song. I'm freaking happy right now. I just didn't feel that with the Who. So, but yes, I would give it another shot if it was a different set list.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. And we won't send you to see Ringo alone.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
That wouldn't happen.
Although the next meal's on me, Mario. Otherwise, I'm not coming.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's right here. It's being documented.
Am I included in that? Is that do I get optional. The free meal too?
It's optional. I don't know if I'm inviting you yet. Definitely Mario's invited.
Rice pudding not included.
Rice pudding not included. Well, you see, if I invite you, Vin, then you get the parking spot before me, and that's just it all goes downhill then.
I do always win when it comes to parking. I don't know.
Because that was the one negative for me last night, driving around the city for 25 minutes looking for a damn parking spot. That was egregious. But no, in all seriousness, I want to thank the both of you for, I'm going to say, dragging me along, but inviting me and kind of opening my eyes to seeing Ringo and changing my mind about the All-Star Band concept and all of that. And you know what, Mario, one other thought I wanted to get from you before we wrap up here. Vin and I were talking before when you dropped off about not being able to take pictures and video. And I think each one of us kind of snuck a few different pictures, but for the most part, we adhered to that. But what were your thoughts? Was that disappointing for you that you weren't allowed to take video and pictures?
Well, when you look at YouTube, you could probably put the entire Paul McCartney tour together, and there's so many clips. And if anyone's going to be a real pain in the neck about it, you'd think it would be Paul.
Right.
But they said it was, the artist request. I don't know why. Maybe he didn't want flashing, but I don't think.
Vince said he saw on their website that it seems to be something with the beacon. And I said, when I saw Slash there 2-3 months ago, they did the same thing. No recordings.
It's yeah, I think I might have covered this when he dropped off. It's on the Beacon Theater FAQ. It says a whole thing about no recording devices, no cameras, no. So it's not a Ringo thing. It's a policy of the theater itself.
But I'm glad we're bringing this up again because Mario is right. I think the signs on the door did say per artist request.
Per artist request, yeah.
It's nice to blame the artist, right, as the venue. They don't want to get blamed for that.
Well, if it's on their website, then maybe that's just their policy. But there were people telling, so I saw some people sneak in some video, and right away the usher came by and told them to stop. But you know what? When he started with a little help from my friends, I dropped.
I saw that.
Like, that's the end of it.
Yeah. And I noticed actually, so during the whole show, maybe I noticed 3 or 4 people trying to sneak a video or a picture. Yeah. And then, like you said, the last song, all of a sudden I saw a couple of dozen people with the phone. They all knew it was the last song. They're like, all right, you're not booting me out at this point.
Exactly.
So,
that's how I felt.
But it was interesting because I was saying to Vin 2 weeks ago, I was at Kiss Creatures Fest with Vinnie Vincent, and he, same thing, did not want people videoing. And security was going around and literally smacking phones out of hands in some cases and shining flashlights in people's faces. And it was, like I said, when we did a podcast, it was a bad luck. And it wasn't like that last night. People really adhered to it. And even when security came over, I thought security was very nice about it, polite. And, but I was just surprised, especially in light of Vin and I just doing an episode 2 weeks ago, talking about this. I was very surprised that here it is, Ringo All-Starr, Beacon Theater, whoever it is, that we weren't allowed to take any pictures and video. Although I think that there was an archivist there last night that got the whole thing on audio from what I heard.
Wow.
This is 1989 People magazine, Ringo announcing that he's going to be doing these tours.
Wow.
And, back then, my second favorite store was Hudson News in the World Trade Center, where it just had newspapers and magazines from all over the world. And I see Ringo on the cover. It's like, and he had dropped out of sight in the 80s. He was the voiceover for Thomas the Train, children's program.
I did not know that, really.
Yeah,
I forgot that. I might have known that. But
okay, he did the Wine Cool stuff. So the 80s weren't too kind to Ringo. But then 1989, this magazine comes out with the announcement, and this is his first tour since 1966. I thought it was a great idea. At first, part of me thought it was a little gimmicky, but he had Clarence Clemens, he had Dr. John, he had Joe Walsh. I mean, he had this, just an unbelievable, first band. And it has evolved over the years, and, God bless him. He's still doing it. It's great.
So last question that I have for you, Mario, I was thinking about this. I saw this last night. I think after New York that he's going to New Hampshire and then
go.
And then Baltimore. Okay. And at the same time, Paul McCartney is going to be in Baltimore. And so I think I want to say it's Sunday night, and I might have my days of the week wrong, but I want to say Sunday night, McCartney's in Baltimore and Ringo is in New Hampshire. And then like 2 days later, Ringo's in Baltimore and McCartney's off for like 4 days. So if McCartney hangs around Baltimore, they'll be in Baltimore at the exact same time.
Wow.
So my question to you, if they said McCartney was going to make an appearance at the Baltimore show as a lifelong Beatle, he's like, I don't even have to finish the question. He's like,
road trip. I'll get the chips.
When I saw that lined up, I was like, oh boy, I'm tempted to think about that. And there's been no announcement.
If I was hooked up to an IV, we're going. Let's go.
Man. I honestly think if they made an announcement, first off, assuming it's sold out, but tickets to scalp would go through the roof.
Oh, forget it.
But when I read that, when I saw that, I was like, ooh, that's tempting. So that tells you how much I enjoyed last night, that I'd actually even entertain a drive to Baltimore for the off chance that Paul McCartney could be there.
half the Beatles in 2022.
That's right.
Consider ourselves lucky that we still could buy a ticket to see these guys. You
Exactly.
know? Yeah. So that would be a cool road trip. Yeah.
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 A couple of things. First of all, archaeologist Mario Cirillo, am I citing a 8-track tape in back of you that's on that shelf?
Yes.
All right. Show and tell time. What is it?
It's not a Beatle one.
Okay.
It's a Kiss one.
It's a Kiss one.
Really?
Yeah, see? Look at the eagle eye. There you go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, how did you see that all the way in the background on the shelf?
That's really good.
Man. I gotta get me a pair of goggles like you have.
I'm like, I've seen CDs and I'm like, wait a second, that looks like an 8-track tape. I'm like, and known Super M, it's a Kiss 8-track tape.
So what else is behind you, Mario, that would be good for show and tell?
Oh, okay. Well, here's your 16, 45.
Nice.
Is that an original?
That's it. Oh yeah, it's
you want to know about was that pressed in Dallas, Texas, or whatever I said earlier?
with the custom Apple star.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then this is his first really big successful hit. It Don't Come Easy. He played it last night.
Yep.
Yeah.
On Apple.
Awesome.
So yeah, I figured I'd just spruce up the place a little bit.
Yeah.
You know.
Very nice.
Now, here's a little fun fact. Did you know that there was a lawsuit once between Apple Records and Apple Computer?
Yes.
Of course, I knew that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good.
Well,
It's a fun fact that we all knew. Okay. Was that really that fun?
All right. So does everybody watch your show? Maybe they don't. Some of them don't know. All right.
Okay. Fair enough. Touche.
Okay. Thank you.
Touche.
Thank you.
Anything else on the show? Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry, Ben. What were you going to say?
Yes. I don't know if a couple other comments I want to make.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't know if we spoke enough because we keep talking about Ringo and his drumming. You know, most vocalists, we know, we've heard them. I don't have to mention names. When they get older, they get this weird wavy thing going on with their voice when they sing. I don't think really. Now, listen, Ringo's like about 4 steps above Ace Frehley as a vocalist, in my opinion. He's not like a super vocalist, but to me, he sounded great. He didn't have any of that weirdness going on with his voice. You know what I mean? Did you hear anything, Super M?
He sounded the same as he always sounds.
Yeah.
It's not. It's Paul is suffering a bit. I think.
Which Paul?
Which Paul?
Which Paul?
Multiple Pauls are suffering.
Yeah.
No,
Pauls.
McCartney isn't what he used to be. I mean, he's 80, and he's been on the road. I can't tell you how long.
Well, you said the good comment yesterday. A good. I say good comment, but about he insists on still doing Helter Skelter at 80. It's like one of the hardest songs to sing, and he just won't drop it from the set list. It's
he won't drop it, and I've seen several pictures of him smoking backstage. That can't be good. I
also have to think, Mario, that there's a difference between McCartney, who's been touring for 50, 60 years, lead singer. As a solo artist, he sings 30 plus songs a night, right? Does a long show.
Yes.
Compared to Ringo, who was never a lead singer. Even last night, he didn't sing half the songs in the set. I have to think that helps preserve the voice a little bit.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Definitely agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that, it's not that classic voice where, you can hear a change immediately.
Right.
It's him. He sounds the same. I don't think you're right. He doesn't sing as many songs as Paul, but still the age is there and the voice is fine.
Yep.
So.
And the other thing I wanted to mention was I was pleasantly surprised to see. Like, I knew that Colin Hay did the guitar solo on Overkill, which is a great guitar solo. If you ever really go back and listen to it, it's a really fantastic solo.
Yeah.
But he was also doing some solo work on some other songs.
Yep.
And I'm like, you got like Steve Lukather there, who's played on like hit record of it. He played on the Michael Jackson stuff. He didn't play on Beat It. We all know that was Eddie Van Halen. So before everyone starts yelling at me.
Yes.
But he played on so many hit records. He did some solos that were just, I mean, at one point he did that one solo and he stopped. The crowd was like, and that was really awesome. Just to see Colin, like, just say, and I'm not just a guy who, wrote Down Under and did all this stuff. I think he said Down Under he wrote in 40 minutes and then like he paid for his, like the rest of his life or whatever.
For the next 40 years, I think he said. I wrote in 40 minutes and it helped me for the next 40 years.
Yeah, that was
which
fun.
is, which is, and that was actually kind of fun too. We didn't talk about that. Like all the guys, Hamish, whatever his name is. They all had like really cool personalities. Everybody spoke on the mic. You know, it wasn't just Ringo's thing. You know, you could just really see I think there was, you know, a genuine like bond between all these guys, like a brothership,
and a mutual
a
respect
brotherhood.
across them. And
Yeah,
yeah, I agree.
yeah. That was really cool. And the other thing I loved was at the end when we all like gave the standing ovation, you know, and everybody got it, because for the most part everyone was sitting and watching the show, you know, which was it was enjoyable. But when we all got up at the end, you know, just that feeling, you know, of, you know, kind of giving back to the band, like our appreciation to what this means to us as music fans, I thought that was pretty significant.
I agree. And, you know, Vin, one of the things I liked last night, we know when you and I record, we always usually end with double Ringo.
Oh yeah.
But so we were calling out the double Ringos, the single Ringo, the flying Ringo, the running Ringo. We had all different kind of Ringos going on.
It was great.
So that to me was the fun part of the night also. Like, oh look, there's running Ringo. So that was fun.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, he was doing jumping jacks at the end. With a little help from my friends. I'm like, God, 82 jumping jacks.
And Vinny turned to me and said, jumping jack Ringo. No, I'm glad you called it out, because I'm like, Jesus, he just did more exercise in the last 2 minutes of his show than I have in the last 20 years, probably, which is not something I should be proud of. But it's just
no, you made it known to us that the last week or two you ran 4.5 miles. I didn't forget that.
That's right. Yeah. You're right. I did 4.1 miles twice this week.
Okay,
for a total of 8.2 miles. In fact, I was supposed to go out again today, but I swam in the pool instead. Oh well. So tomorrow I'll go back out. But
so I think we're all under agreement that if this comes around town again, we would definitely be down to go see it. We highly recommend it to anybody who's ever thought about it, don't know what it's about. Like, you know, hopefully we can encapsulate everything of, you know, what the show is about.
Agreed.
And again,
and his next All-Star band, if he has Vinnie Vincent, then there'll definitely be no recording because of Ringo or Vinnie.
Could you imagine that?
Look, that would be really cool to me. And I thought that last night as I'm driving home. I'm like, imagine if Gene Simmons was the bass player in the All-Star band.
Hey,
first, you know what?
You know what? I thought of the same thing. I'm glad you said that. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I thought about that. Like when Kiss retires, why not a Gene Simmons or a Paul Stanley or whoever? You know, I mean, it might be.
But hold on, Mario, does Kiss have the 3-hit requirement?
That's true.
I think you're safe. with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man.
We all know that Gene Simmons was a huge Beatle fan, and you know both those guys have spoke about it. I think the thing that would be tough with Paul is just because of the vocal thing, but you know Gene could get away with it more as a bass player, singer, whatever. But could you imagine, like, you know, Ringo Starr, the drums, the God of Thunder? Like, imagine that visual, like, and doing his little hop, you know?
I can't manage that. That's about as close to the visuals I'm going to get what you just did.
How much would you pay for that? I mean, I'm going up there. I'm at least playing 5 times what I paid last night for that ticket to see, you know, God of Thunder and Ringo on War Machine. You know, it's like.
I don't think War Machine would qualify as one of the 3 hits.
Well, so that's a good point, Super M. So they have to have the 3 hits, and you have to play those 3 hits, or you could play, you know, whatever you want from the catalog. Do you know that?
I think, well, if the minimum is 3, then I think Ringo insists you play those 3. But if you have 6, you know, choose your 3. You know, I think that's how it works. Yeah. I always felt he should have invited Julian Lennon to be an All-Star, because I mean he's got the hits. He hasn't really worked. He just recently recorded Imagine, and you know, for the war in that's taking place. So he still could sing, and I would love to hear his hits in a live setting. But
I would have enjoyed that last night.
Maybe one day. Yeah.
Everything you believe in me. Remember those videos?
I've been wanting to
cry. And it would go,
yeah, an MTV staple.
Yeah.
I just remember going back. I was like, oh my God, he sounds just like John Lennon. It was like, it was incredible, you know?
Yeah.
Your dad was a big fan of that record, wasn't he? Mike?
With me? No.
Yeah.
Oh, my dad wasn't
Just
a big
one.
fan of it. I don't think my dad knows that John Lennon had a son, let alone a big fan of the record. So, no, I think you got me confused with one of your other friends. That's why Mary and I are both like, who are you talking to? No, definitely.
Well, now that we know my dad's Roger Daltrey, yeah, maybe I am confused. 'Cause I didn't know all these years he was the lead singer in The Who.
That's right. Your dad's-
That's where you were last night.
Oh, that's great. Well, one of these days we got to put a picture on my page or whatever. I have to superimpose a picture of your dad and Roger Daltrey side by side. Oh man, I wonder if other people would agree, because I thought that during the concert, but I never said anything. You're like, oh, there's Murdo. That's what you jokingly call your dad. Murdo.
I said it to one of my friends, and they laughed, so they totally got it.
Okay.
You know, I forgot who it was.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I told you that they should have renamed the band Murdo and Bundy.
Yeah. 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 Pete Townsend turns into Al Bundy. He looks like an older Ed O'Neill.
Oh man.
I think we definitely lost people now, especially Super M.
That's okay. That's all right. We're laughing and having a good time. But all righty, guys. Anything else from the show last night that we didn't bring up that we should?
I think we covered all the joy.
I think so. Well,
I think we did.
I'll be curious to see if other people could come up with who do you want to see in Ringo's next All-Star band, if there is one, right? We threw out a few different names here, but that's a good one. I wonder what people would say. So let us know your thoughts. Let us know if you've seen Ringo on this tour previously, what you think of the show. Let me know what you think about my comment about Ringo maybe playing one song on his own with drums. I'm sure Greg would not be insulted if that ever happened, but what are your thoughts? And I guess that's about it. Yeah. What better way to end this episode than Double Ringo? Which this is, I don't know what
this
six
is like
is.
six tuplets. So six rings. Yeah.
So, all righty, everybody. Thanks for watching. Mario, thanks for joining again.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All righty. There you have it. I'd like to thank Super Mario for joining me, talking all about our experience going to see Ringo Starr last night at the Beacon Theater in New York City. It was a great time hanging out. Thanks a lot, Mario. I'd also like to hear everybody's thoughts and comments about who you'd like to see Ringo Starr have in his band if he has another all-star band in the future, as well as what you would have thought if you went to the concert and you were not allowed to take video or photos, just like what happened with the Vinnie Vincent show at Creatures Fest. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments on that. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.